I'm delighted to be joined now by Fleur Hassan-Nahoum. She's the Israeli Foreign Ministry Special Envoy. She also is the former Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem. Very, very good afternoon to you.
It's great to be here with you.
I'm very, very surprised. We've just discovered that it was actually the first time we've met. We kind of thought we'd already met because we've spoken so many times.
Much.
Unfortunately, always about really very, very dire situations. I wish we could ever have a conversation that we could just be wonderful. The war is over, hostages return, everything is good, but that is not the case.
Unfortunately.
There is, though, some hope in terms of what is going on in Lebanon. Lots of talk about basically Israel and Hezbollah being on the cusp of a peace deal in southern Lebanon. What is going on there and how likely is it?
Well, it looks like it's likely, but you never know, because 2 days ago, Julia, they fired 200 missiles at the centre of the country. Now, people don't really have an idea what that means. Just imagine, in the last over a year from Lebanon, we've had about 11,000 rockets. The London Blitz that people are still talking about was 2,500 missiles. Just to give you an idea. Over 5 years. So in 1 year, we've had 4 times or more the amount of missiles dropped on London during the Blitz. Just so you imagine that.
It's one of the things I find extraordinary. A lot of the reporting on this, with BBC, Al Jazeera, whoever, talking about the war, basically the war extending to Lebanon, and never seeming to mention that there was a year of rockets being fired into northern Israel.
And 75,000 Israeli evacuees that don't live in their homes, people who had to leave their farms, their businesses, their schools, people still living in hotel rooms with little children. We in Jerusalem had about 30,000 of these evacuees, so I was intimately involved with how to help them live day by day.
Now, the point of the IDF forces going in, not just firing back rockets, was to tackle Hezbollah moving into southern Lebanon, which they're not supposed to be there as a result of United Nations agreement. But crucially also, as Hamas have done in, of course, these are closely allied, these organisations, all funded by Iran, as they've done in Gaza, they have built an extraordinary network of tunnels. Again, we're talking London Underground level network of tunnels and missile silos and the like. So what the work that IDF has been doing, look, we've seen a lot of deaths, not obviously on the scale of Gaza, obviously, but that work has been what?
Well, I think that Israel has been incredibly successful against Hezbollah in Lebanon. And you have to understand that Lebanon is a country occupied by Hezbollah, which is an arm of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Syria is also occupied. Nobody talks about the occupation of the Islamists into these countries. Lebanon was at peace with Israel before the Islamists and the Palestinian extremists got their hands on it. So basically, Hezbollah had actually a much more impressive cache of weapons and an army. Julia, you'll be maybe sad to note that it's got a bigger army than the UK army, Hezbollah. Now, what happened in the last 11 months and 12 months, and something they didn't expect, that Israel was very successful. We had a lot of intelligence. We destroyed their communication system with the exploding beepers.
By the way, can we just say bravo? Bravo.
So targeted. They talk about innocent casualties. There were barely no innocent casualties. Nobody talks about that, of course. They're trying to find these innocent casualties. But anyway, so Israel got rid of their communication system. It got rid of their leader, their king, who everybody revered, who everybody grew up with.
He was incredibly powerful figure.
Nasrallah was incredibly powerful, hand-picked by Khomeini from Iran to go there and create their army, the extension of the Islamic Republic. So we got rid of him. We got rid of all the senior commanders in Hezbollah and all the middle commanders in Hezbollah, and so they were headless. On top of that, what we managed to do is destroy about 80% of their weaponry. Now, that still means they have tens of thousands of missiles. It doesn't mean that we're good, but it means that I don't think they imagined on the 8th of October, when they attacked Israel on the heels of the 7th of October massacre, that they would get clobbered in such a way. And so, they're begging for this ceasefire now. They're begging for it.
But once again, it is Israel that gets chastised on the world stage for taking the action, which is quite blatantly. I don't know how anybody sane can look at this and not see it as a defensive action. The rockets were fired by Hezbollah for a very long time before there was any retaliation.
They ignore it. They criminalise our right to self-defence, which is what the ICC have done.
Well, let's come on to that, because the International Criminal Court last Thursday issued an arrest warrant for Netanyahu, also Gallant, former now sacked foreign minister, but also a believed to be long dead Hamas leader, quite bizarrely, at the same time. And the argument is that Netanyahu and Galad are responsible for genocide, genocidal crimes in the province of Gaza by withholding food, mass starvation. This is something we've been warned was going to happen in Gaza for, I think pretty much an entire year now.
Yes.
But doesn't seem to have quite happened. They were constantly at that point where everyone is about to die of starvation.
Well, everybody's always on the brink, but it actually doesn't happen.
So I'm never quite sure about this. There's no doubt at all people are living very, very, very horrific, difficult lives there.
It's horrible.
We're in a situation, though, with that arrest warrant. We are a signatory to the International Criminal Court here in Britain. On a technicality, if Prime Minister Netanyahu arrives in this country, we are required under the law to arrest him and give him up to the International Criminal Court. Keir Starmer's government has said that they will obey international law. The Prime Minister of your country can't come to a strong ally here in the UK because he might face arrest. What do you make of that?
Well, of course, it's absolutely ridiculous, and this is the result of what we call lawfare, which is the Islamists trying to get one up on democracies, Western democracies, through these very bogus and biased legal systems. Really, who do they answer to? Where's the system of appeal? There's a lot of problems with the procedure of the ICC, and there's a lot of problems with the claims. First of all, let's look at the claims. If we were purposefully starving the Palestinian population in Gaza, how come, we can prove it, and all you have to do is go to the border and see it, we've facilitated 1.1 million tons of food and aid. Now, what happens when the food gets through the border is that Hamas gunmen, terrorists, go and steal the food. Why? So they can sell it in the open market. So they're charging people £10 for a bottle of water. When the Israeli soldiers are there and they're giving bottles of water to people. That's how warped this whole thing is, that instead of criminalising the terrorists who started this horrible massacre and thereby starting a war, instead they are criminalising Israel's right to self-defence, and we're fighting war on 7 fronts. Why didn't they say anything when Iran attacked us back in April with 200 missiles? Why didn't they say anything when Iran attacked us again a month ago with 200 ballistic missiles? They are free of any type of culpability. Assad, who killed 500,000 of his own people, nothing. The guy in China who's killed 1 million Uyghurs, nothing. And all of a sudden, the democratically elected leader of a Western-style democracy, he gets accused of a ridiculous thing.
We're all rattling our brains about what on earth that could possibly be motivated by. There's no doubt at all.
What on earth?
The ideological capture of United Nations, of the International Criminal Court, the ICJ as well, International Court of Justice. There's no doubt at all we can see this, and we even see this in just the Me Too movement. Believe all women, except if they are a dead Jewish woman who's been raped and mutilated by a Hamas fighter. A lot of double standards. How does Israel tackle that? There's a certain extent, and I rather admire Israel, just Israeli people, but Israeli leadership as well, which is to hell what you think about us. We're fighting a war of, for survival, and we really don't care what someone on Twitter or some international court somewhere says, because we are fighting an existential battle to survive. And by the way, we're also kind of fighting a civilizational battle for the West.
Absolutely.
But nevertheless, it has been damaging, and it does undermine support from Western governments. We saw that with Biden's government and their support and criticism. So how does Israel counter that, if at all?
Well, we have to. We had to go to the ICJ and also face these ridiculous allegations that have absolutely no basis in law. We're dealing with a very warped international community where all countries are equal, including countries that are killing its own people, gassing its own people, and don't have democracies. So Iran is now on the head of the Human Rights Commission.
That's
it's ridiculous.
Laughable.
This morning, the lady who is in charge of deciding whether Israel was committing a genocide said that, for UN, said that it does not comply with the definition of genocide. She got fired from the UN today.
When of course it doesn't, because you use the word genocide properly.
So it's all rigged. And the way we get over it is, first of all, we still have to fight on every front. So here am I and many other people fighting on the diplomatic front. But we are very well aware of our history. And we know that we're living today in the same type of atmosphere as 1930s Germany. Remember that for the Nazis to have done what they did against the Jewish people that consider themselves Germans, They had to really indoctrinate an entire population. How did they do that? They did that through the media.
Yep.
They had Goebbels in charge of the media. They gave free radios to every German family. And for 5 years, they told them that all of their problems was because of the Jews. This is why this modern state of Israel was born in our indigenous homeland. And so what does this do for us? It makes us grateful that we have our own sovereign state.
Are you hopeful that Donald Trump's arrival in the White House again will help?
Well, look at the reaction. Iran, since he got elected, he's not even in office, has said, oh, we're not attacking Israel now. Why do you think that happened? Already, this ridiculous ICC decision, the American government has already said, the new government, the incoming government, that this is not going to pass. They're going to sanction anybody who supports the ICC. And you know how ridiculous it gets, Julia? That America could have put a stop to all of this in May. But George Clooney, who's the biggest donor of the Democratic Party, went to Biden and said, don't do this because my wife could be affected.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, let's face it, celebrities and money do rule. Can I just finally say, you've got a yellow ribbon on.
Yes, this is for the hostages.
This is what this is all about. There are still hostages,
101
babies,
hostages.
Elderly, teenage girls being held hostage. How many? Do you believe they're still alive?
We don't know. There's some people who think half are alive. There's some people who don't think many are alive. How could they have survived? It really does. We don't know. There was a video put out last week of a young man who's still there and who's still alive. And we're praying as many are alive as possible. They've been through hell. And again, no mention in any international arena or even the court about the hostages.
Really good to talk to you. Really good to meet you in real life as well. Fleur